Fire! Agony!
This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material. No copyright infringement is intended, so let's get started. Good day, everyone. Today we're gonna dive deep into an important and complex topic, the global divide. The concept of a global divide has long been a defining feature of international relations, shaping economies, politics, and societies worldwide. This divide generally refers to the economic and developmental gap between the so-called global north and global south. The origin of its division and its development over time and its consequences on global relations continue to be a significant areas of study. So this video actually examines the roots of the global divide and the reasons behind the north-south classification, the characteristics of each region, and the impact of this division on international affairs. Additionally, it explores the differences between the first, second, and third world countries, between the third world and the global south, and how Latin America's experiences contributed to the new global perspective. So the global divide can be traced back to colonialism and imperialism. From 15th century onward, European powers like Spain, Britain, France, and Portugal conquered and exploited regions in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. This period saw the forced extraction of resources and the position of Western economic systems on indigenous societies.
Colonialism created systems where European nations grew wealthier while their colonies remained economically dependent. These colonies were economic structures that benefited the colonizers rather than the local populations. Resources were extracted, industries were restricted, and economic policies were shaped to serve European interests. The effect of this economic disparity would set the foundation today. Furthermore, the Atlantic slave trade played a significant role in creating economic balances. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken to work plantations in the America, generating immense wealth for European nations while devastating African economies and societies. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Western nations industrialized rapidly, while colonized regions were kept as source of raw materials. This unequal in development created lasting economic gaps. Colonizing nations were not allowed to develop countries that would compete with the European economies, keeping them in a cycle of dependency.
Then came the 20th century, with two world wars and the Cold War. After World War II, many former colonies gained independence, but they faced significant challenges such as poverty, weak governance, and reliance on former colonial rulers. International financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund and World Bank often reinforced economic dependency through loans with strict conditions, making it harder for newly independent nations to develop. The Cold War, 1947 to 1991, also played a major role. Some nations aligned with the United States and NATO, while others aligned with the Soviet Union. However, many nations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America remained non-aligned, meaning they didn't pick sides but still experienced economic struggles due to global tension.
By the late 20th century, globalization further deepened the divide. Wealthier nations controlled trade, technology, and capital, while developing nations struggled to compete on equal terms. Even today, economic policies favor powerful countries, reinforcing historical inequalities. Why does the global divide separate the North and the South? The division between the global North and global South isn't just about geography. It's about economic, power, development, and historical advantage. Global North. This includes wealthier, industrialized nations like the US, Canada, Europe, and Australia. These nations have strong economies, advanced technology, and political influence. And the last one is Global South. This term refers to less developed countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Oceania, many of which struggle with poverty, political instability.
The North controls global markets and decision-making institutions, while the South faces barriers like trade restrictions, limited technologies access, and a debt. This results in economic inequality and limited development opportunity for the South. Additionally, the global North benefits from better infrastructure, education, healthcare, and high living standards, while the South often experiences economic crisis, environmental challenges, and weak governance structures. These factors create a cycle where the South struggles to catch up with the North.
The global divide has led to numerous economic, social, and political consequences. Number one is economic dependency. Many southern nations rely on exports of raw materials and agricultural products to northern markets, leading to trade imbalances and economic dependency. The second one is political instability. Economic hardship in the South often contributes to political instability, corruption, and conflicts, leading to government's challenges. Lastly, migration. Economic disparity leads to migration, with individuals from the South seeking better opportunities in the North. This results in drain where skilled workers leave their home countries, further weakening southern economies.
4. Healthcare and education gaps. The divide limits access to quality healthcare and education, contributing to higher mortality rates and lower literacy levels in the South. Environmental challenges. Southern nations often bear the brunt of climate change effects despite contributing less to global carbon emissions. 6. Inequality in global governance. Northern nations dominate international organizations such as the UN, IMF, and World Bank, making decisions that often do not favor the South.
So, during the Cold War, the world was categorized into three groups. The first one was First World, capitalist democratic countries aligned with the US and NATO. So, this comes with US, Canada, Western Europe, Japan, and Australia. And the second one was Second World, communist countries aligned with the Soviet Union. It comes with Soviet Union, China, Eastern Europe, Cuba, and North Korea. And the third one was the Third World, non-aligned nations, mostly former colonies struggling with underdevelopment, with much of Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And then after the Cold War, the term Third World became the outdated, giving way to more economic and development focus global North and South.
While the terms may seem similar, they have distinct meanings. Third World was a Cold War term referring to nations that were not aligned with the US or USSR, regardless of their development level. Global South is a modern term that emphasizes the economic and social struggles of developing countries, moving away from political divisions of the Cold War. For example, Yugoslavia was Third World because it was not aligned, but today it would not be considered part of the Global South because of its economic status.
Global South refers to nations in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania that have historically been marginalized in global economic and political systems. These nations often share experience of colonialism, economic independence, and political instability. So, key characteristics of Global South: economic struggles due to historical exploitation, limited influence in global decision-making, and efforts towards self-sufficiency and regional cooperation.
Latin America's role in shaping global relations. Latin America has played a crucial role in challenging economic dependency and redefining global interactions. First, dependency theory. Latin America scholars propose that global inequality is a result of past economic exploitation, arguing that South remains dependent on the North through unfair trade and financial systems. Second, regional blocs. Organizations like Mercosur, ALBA, and CELAC promote South-South cooperation to reduce reliance on Western nations. Third, challenges to global hegemony. Countries like Brazil, Venezuela have advocated for a fairer economic trade, questioning dominance of institutions like IMF and World Bank.
So, to sum it all up, the global divide started with colonialism and economic exploitation. It eventually developed through industrialization, globalization, and Cold War politics. So the world is split into North and South due to historical inequalities. The outdated first, second, and third world categories have evolved into Global North and Global South. So Global South is an economic and political concept, not just a geographical term. So the Latin America's experiences have influenced global discussions on economic, justice, and fairer development models. So understanding these concepts helps us see the structural inequalities of the world, but also the efforts being made to create a more equitable global order. So thank you for joining this discussion. I hope this gave you a new insights into our interconnected world. Thanks for watching the video and have a great day.